You can help support the channel by heading to our merchandise store and picking up some of our great aircraft designs created by our graphic designer. We have everything from fighters to transport aircraft, which you can choose to have printed on t-shirts, mugs, stickers and much more. Head to the description below and click the links and pick up your design today. Thank you and enjoy. Mike, when did you become interested in aviation?
Both my parents were in the Air Force. My old man was a wireless operator, Morse code and all that stuff. In fact, my mum was as well. That's how they met. Anyway, she left the Air Force. I was born in Barnsley in Yorkshire, God's country.
Yes.
And I moved everywhere with him, and I was quite keen on it. And my last 3 years in Malta were at a naval school at Tarhandak, and I still keep in touch with a lot of friends from there. So I thought, right, I'm going to join the RAF. So I applied, and they said, how much notice do you need? And my dad was Torex sometime in '65, and I said, 48 hours notice, And of course the RAF in their infinite wisdom held me to that. So we arrived on the Friday in Leighton Buzzard in Bedfordshire, and there was a telegram saying report to Biggin Hill on the Monday, But of course I didn't have any decent clothes, so my dad said, right, you're not wearing that bloody suit. He said, so he took me off to Bedford and kitted me out with some decent stuff. I went to Biggin Hill, got accepted, joined the RAF in November '65. Went to South Cerney in Gloucestershire, lovely place. Got recoursed, like you do, thick as two short planks. Anyway, I didn't have a PPL because you join the Air Force either with a PPL or you did the primary flying squadron, which is what I did at South Cerney. So the first aircraft I ever flew was a Chipmunk.
Nice, lovely aircraft.
It's a great machine actually. So I flew that. Then I was posted to Acklington up in Northumberland, which is your neck of the woods, and I had a great time there. Flew the Jet Provost Mark 3 and 4. Got my wings in '66. There was a big hold up with a lot of students going through at the time. So
yeah,
there was a big hold up. So what they used to do was send us to a place called Topcliffe, an aircrew holding unit. But a lot of the guys who lived down in London were sort of organising their own little holding postings, flying Chipmunks for university air squadrons. Well, my parents lived in Bedfordshire. There was nothing there anyway.
Right.
So I went to Gaydon and flew the Varsity in the right-hand seat as a co-pilot.
Oh, what was that like?
It was interesting. I mean, it was a big machine compared with the bloody JP. It's and of course they had navigators, which I'd never come across them before. I mean, apart from being on the course with them at South Cerney, but that was it. So I then got posted to Valley. I flew the Gnat, and that is probably the best military aircraft I've ever flown. I mean, the guys who've flown Hunters will tell you that was. I never got to fly that.
I've heard nothing but good about the Gnat when I've talked to people.
Oh, the Gnat!
Love it, yeah.
It was a Ferrari. I mean, your first solo in the Gnat was you get airborne and you park the throttle in the far left corner, and you flew around Anglesey, and it was about 15-20 minutes, and then landed, and that was it. Yeah. It was just such fun to fly. I did better than I thought on the Gnat course actually. I came second to a guy called John Cross who got posted to CFS along with me. What they did was the Air Force took the top 2 guys off. It's called creaming basically.
Yeah, creaming, yeah.
So they took the top 2 guys off and posted us to CFS, which was at Risington. Now John went down there, but they had too many on the course, so I was put on hold again. So I buggered off back down to Gaydon. Well, I liked Gaydon. It was great. It was a good quality of life there. Didn't do too much flying, and it was a good crowd. So I held at Gaydon, and then they were doing a redundancy at the time of master aircrew, and there was a wing commander in there interviewing all these guys on the Varsity squadron. And he says, "Oh, have you got this Jamieson here somewhere?" "Oh, he's playing table tennis with the boss." "Yeah, go on." So they dragged me in, and he said, "Oh, you were going to CFS," and I said, "Yeah." So he said, "Well, you're going to EE Canberra," and I went, "Oh, fabulous."
So did you always want the Canberra then?
No, it was my second choice.
Oh, right.
Hunters was I mean, everyone wanted the Hunter.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, Hunters was first, so that was it. Anyway, yeah, second choice was Recce Canberras, then Strike Canberras, and I mean, there was a dream sheet you filled in at Valley. I mean, right down the bottom, I think, was Victors, Valiants, and Vulcans. Yeah. Well, you had to put them in.
Yeah.
That was the thing. They said you can't not put them in. I said, well, I'll fly them. I think we had Lightnings somewhere in the list. So 68, I turned up at Bassingbourne in Cambridgeshire to do the long recce course on the Canberra. We started flying the T4,
Yeah.
which is an oddball really. It's got the bubble cockpit, as most people know, but you've got two of you sat in it. So in the left-hand seat you're like this, and the instructor sat like that, and you've got this poor navigator in the back, and he could see bugger all. All he's got is a little bloody window the size of a bloody postage stamp almost.
It didn't look great in there.
It's awful. I mean, they call them the day-night windows because that's all they could do. Is it daylight or night? And that's it. And you start off doing flying the T4. My instructor was a guy called Surtees. I think his first name was John, but I'm not sure. But he was the aerobatics guy in the Canberra.
Ah.
And the T4 you could do aerobatics in. So at the end of any lesson that we did, we ended up doing aerobatics. It was good fun for me.
Yeah.
But poor old Bernie Perry was my nav. And he's in the back there, and he was not a well bunny,
Oh,
I felt so sorry for him. Anyway, you do 110 hours on the OCU, 60 of that is solo. You're also introduced to the PR3, which is a sort of, I think it's slightly smaller than the PR7, but virtually the same thing. But the PR3 was the first British total reconnaissance aircraft ever built, because everything else that they built did reconnaissance, but it was actually, reconnaissance was a secondary role. It was either
dedicated.
fighter reconnaissance or bomber reconnaissance and so on, but this was total reconnaissance. It was totally unarmed, filled with bloody cameras, basically. But so we did, most of it was at low level, using the F-95s, which is the oblique cameras that you have, which are angled down about 15 degrees or so. And then, of course, we had survey cameras. We did a few surveys and things, but the real work starts when you go onto your squadron.
Yeah.
So I was very, very lucky. I got posted to 31 Squadron in Germany at Larbruck.
Yeah.
Roy Bennett was my boss there, great wing commander, fabulous boss, and it's a big learning curve. You start off in the T4. One of the flight commanders will just show you the local area. Mm-hmm. Then the next day, you sit on the rumble seat, which is a little fold-down seat by the door.
Oh yes.
They've got this thing, and you've got a parachute harness with you. That you're sitting there. You think, thanks, guys. Oh, and how to get out? Well, yes. I mean, you don't have a bag seat, so it says actually, if you read the pilot's notes, it says something like, just above the door is a handle, and you turn it 4.5 times and kick the door out. But it doesn't tell you which direction you turn the handle.
That'd be useful, wouldn't it?
So the briefing used to be, well, turn it one way, if it doesn't work, turn it the other way. So I sat in the rumble seat, had a famil in the PR7, and then the next day I'm off with my nav in the PR7. And the PR7 had 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 with wingtips fuel tank. It had 10 fuel tanks basically. You could fly for 3 hours at low level comfortably.
Low level.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the squadron was primarily a low-level outfit. We did some survey work, but yeah, primarily it was all low-level, which was tremendous fun. I absolutely loved. It's a big rush flying low level.
Absolutely.
I mean, you've interviewed people like Ken and so on, and Phil, as we've mentioned before.
Yep.
I mean, on the Buccaneers, they're down at 50 feet.
Yeah.
I mean, well, we used to do that occasionally, when people weren't watching. But yeah, I mean, 250 was the sort of minimal or the base that we used. But Yeah, 50 feet was quite low. Yeah, it was good. I really enjoyed the camera. I did 2 tours on it, but
Yeah.
I'll stick with 31 for the time being.
Okay.
We did a bit of survey work. In fact, we had a special task to go out with these big oblique cameras, which were an odd angle. Can't remember, but the nav did all that kind of crap. We didn't. I mean, we just sat and looked out the bloody window. Anyway. We were doing some work up against the East German border, and they were obviously looking at stuff in East Germany, and they had big focal length stuff, 48, 52 inch focal length cameras, and we were going up and down the border there doing this, and we used they were facing out to the right, so we'd film, we'd do a racetrack back. Now I didn't know at the time, but apparently they shoved up a MiG-21 on their side.
Really?
So we put up a Lightning apparently. Then they've put up another MiG-21, and then we put up a Lightning, and then we ran out of Lightnings apparently. So, but anyway, excuse me. That was we got back to Larbrook. It was all the police around, and the film was taken out and rushed down to headquarters down at Rheindahlem. That was unusual. We did some survey work, high level stuff at 40,000.
So just to interrupt you there, so that film, was that top secret? Were you allowed to look at that?
No.
Okay, so you just give the...
I never saw the film.
Did you not? Right.
No, I flew the aircraft.
Yeah,
we took it.
Yeah.
But we've no idea what we were looking at.
Yeah.
Not a clue.
But did they not grab you in and say, what, did you see
No.
anything? No? Okay.
No, they didn't. No, it was
surprised
all.
by that.
It was all very hush hush. It was well, obviously something of interest there, but they knew what they were looking at. I hadn't bloody clue. I did a trip to Riga in Norway.
No,
Not Latvia, Riga. It's RYGGE. It's a military base.
Right.
They had F5s there, and we'd gone for a night stop, Bernie and I, and we'd taken 3 bags, a bag each, and then 1 bag full of booze, which we were going to sell because that was the deal then. We used to get it cheap from the NAFI, and then we'd sell it to the Norwegians, and we'd landed on packed snow. Sorry, I landed on packed snow. He's in the back. And we stopped okay. We parked up. We couldn't park on the dispersal apron because it was sheet ice. So we were parked up adjacent to the runway. I mean, they weren't flying anyway. And Bernie went off with the bags, and he just stood at the top of the taxiway and slid all the way down to the crew room. I put all the engine blanks in and everything else, and then he came back. He was back about 15 minutes later, and I was still putting the blanks in and so on. So he said, "I've sold the lot." I said, "What?" He said, "I've sold the lot." He said, "They've got a party this weekend." He said, "and they want the booze," and we sold it at what we paid for it from the NAFI. We didn't make any money on it.
Yeah.
And it was great. We couldn't get back to Germany, unfortunately, because it was thick fog. So in a hotel for a bit, well, 2 nights, then we were out of money. So then we moved into the officers' mess. And then we were invited to the party that the Norwegians were holding. And we
Got your booze?
I recognise this bottle, So yes, and in fact, it got so bad that the guys on the squadron there, they said, "Look, we'll if you're here for Christmas Day, you can come round to mine, and Bernie can go to theirs." I mean, they were lovely people. I mean, it was great, really, really good.
It does sound like fun, yeah.
Oh, I like that sort of thing. Anyway. Right.
Yeah, so you flew a couple of variants. So what were they like to fly, and what were the strengths and weaknesses of the aircraft?
It was a lovely airplane to fly. I'll say that for it now. It was quite stable. It didn't have power controls, but the controls were good. They were all fairly harmonised. It was really, really nice. Low level, it was great fun. It really was. Very manoeuvrable.
Yeah.
Very, very manoeuvrable. It was a pig on one engine. I mean, your rotate speed was normally about 130 knots, and your safety speed was 175. So you've got a 45 knot death window, we should call it, basically, because if you lose an engine after 130 knots and before 175, you had to put full rudder on to start with, and maybe a bit of aileron, and you might have had to bring back, luckily, I mean, touch wood, I didn't have one, bring back the power on the live engine slightly out because it was too much. But a lot of guys have been killed just practicing single engine failures on takeoff at the OCU and places like that, and it's not good. I mean, you get airborne, you push the button for the undercarriage, and then after you press that, you've got your button ready for the tip tank. Explosive bolts, get rid of the tip tank jettison, get rid of them. That then, I think, gave you a safety speed of about 160 something. So you immediately got rid of 15 knots, which was great.
Yeah.
Without the tip tank, because of obviously the movement of the wings.
Was there a big difference between the PR3 and PR9? Was it PR7? Sorry?
No, not really.
Not an engine upgrade? Or?
No. I didn't think there was all that much difference. It was a little bit bigger. I think they stretched the fuselage on it. They put more cameras in it, and I think the engines might have been. They had the 109s in the PR7, which was only 7,400 pounds of thrust, which wasn't great. It was enough. It was enough, and I mean we could go. I think the max takeoff weight was about 55,000, which is quite heavy. And I think 48,000 feet was the maximum height that we went to. I mean, if we went anywhere on a if we did a high-low high somewhere where we get airborne from Larbrook, climb up, we'll be in the low 40s. You're above all this commercial traffic up there, and then we let down to low level and do the reverse back to Larbrook. I mean, that was the day side. We then had the night flying side. Night flashing, we used to call it. We didn't have a bomb bay, we had a flare bay, and we had a crate in there. I think it carried 48 magnesium flares, and you had a vertical camera which had an L-shaped lens on it, so at least one camera is operating at the time. So you got a mosaic of what you were looking at, and we went all over the place. I mean, Germany obviously, Nordhorn Range, Birkenhoner and various other places. We used to go to Catterick Ranges, Feldham I think is Catterick, Catterick up that way, Castle Martin in Wales, quite a few places. We used to have, we had a squadron exercise, and it was at Nordholm, which is where the bomber guys go.
Okay.
But the target is just some big bloody pyramid in the middle. It's all got lights on it and so on, everything else. All the photographs are put on a rack on the wall there with the crew's names on it and so on. And you've got guys who've got sort of, the aces we've got, they're right over the top of the target.
Yeah.
And then you've got, well, that's not far off, And then one guy had come back with a beautiful photograph of a Nike missile launcher,
really?
which was about a mile away from the range. So they were, I mean, it was a bit. I don't think the Americans were too impressed with lumps of magnesium falling out of the sky onto their bloody missiles. Anyway, that was it. It takes 6 months from arriving on the squadron to getting op checked, because you have to learn all about it's not just taking photographs. You have to learn about all the army kit,
right.
Our stuff and their stuff, the Russian stuff. We had two GLOs on the squadron, both army majors. Murray Franklin, who was Royal Artillery, and a guy called Bill Axworthy, who was Durham Light Infantry, and they would. I mean, if we had what we call a black flag day, where there's weather's crap and there's no flying, we'd all get into one of the rooms in the squadron, and they bring out little plastic models of all the Russian kit, all the tanks, the T-34, 85, T-62, and then things like the self-propelled guns that they had, the 23mm cannons that they had, the ZSU 23-4, but that was radar directed as well. So we had to learn all about their stuff, and we had to tell the difference between their stuff and our stuff, because our stuff looks the same, a lot of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Germans had their own stuff. The British stuff was fairly straightforward. We knew about the Chieftains, the 432s, and Saladins and Saracens and so on that they had. which are all being completely replaced now. But that was hard work. On top of that, of course, being a frontline NATO squadron, you had your own target across the border.
No.
And we had in the intelligence section at Larbert, in the vault there, was your target maps and things. And once a month you went in there, you did an hour's target study. So if the nav got shot for any reason, or well, if he gets shot, you get shot. But basically, if he was unwell, or he didn't know what he was bloody doing, which would never really be the case, you had to memorize the route. And it was basically low-level photography, without going into too much detail, but that's basically what it was.
And were you tested on that as well?
Yes.
Right.
Oh Christ, yeah.
You could just say, yeah, I know that.
Oh, we once, I don't know whether it was once, no, at least once, maybe twice a year, we had a thing called a minival, which is a miniature evaluation. That was organised by the station. So there'd be the station commander, OC Ops, engine, admin and so on, would organise it. And we'd have basically go to war, but it was a small scale thing.
Yeah.
But they would make notes and look at make recommendations and so on. Then we had a tachyval, that was once a year. Now that's the biggie. And the team used to come up from Rheindahlem. Now we had spies. We had spies who could see their car park down at Rheindahlem.
Wow.
And when it got close to, we're due for a tachyval, and we're waiting for some, oh no, we had a phone call, they've left the car park, oh shit, But the trouble is, what they would do is they'd disappear in the wrong direction anyway. And everyone's going, oh no, they're going to so-and-so, everybody, oh, they're going to Goodisloe, oh no, wrong. And they would arrive at the guard room there. No one's allowed to make any phone calls. That was it. They would get everybody positioned all around the station, and then they'd pull the hooter, as if they were going to war. So they would bring, everyone got called out, and you just rushed in, and you didn't know whether it was for real or not.
Was that an enjoyable event or task?
Sorry, what?
Was that an enjoyable event or task?
No.
Or was it stressful?
No, it was quite stressful because you didn't know if it was real,
right,
or whether this was just a bloody tachyval. But then when you saw the tachyval team, you knew it was a tachyval. But yeah, they played it for real. We had and being on a recce squad, obviously we get quizzed about what our job and so on, and recognising military equipment. And Bernie and I were the sort of junior crew, and I thought, they're not going to ask us anything, they're going to stick with the other guy. Wrong.
Yeah.
So we're in the corridor waiting to go into this bloody office, and out walks a crew. Tom Wilborn, bless him. Tom Wilborn was the nav, and he came out. He just said, "Sam 2 tarped." It may not mean anything to you at the moment, but I'll explain it. And Bernie and I looked at each other and went, right, okay. So anyway, they disappeared down the corridor, and we wandered in there. They had Belgian major, there was a Dutch guy there, there was a Brit there. I'm not sure if there was a French guy there. No, I don't think so. And they started putting photographs up and saying, what's this? But yeah. Then they put this photograph up, and it was a black and white photograph. It was a railway carriage, an open railway carriage, with something on it that was covered in a tarpaulin. So hence the tarped.
Oh, right, okay.
So Bernie and I looked at each other and went, Sam 2, tarped. And they just couldn't believe it, I mean, we were lucky we'd been pre-briefed by this. But yeah, we got good marks for that, which was great. Yeah, I mean, you cheat. Everybody, all aircrew cheat.
Of course.
I mean, you cheat. You cheat at all the exams. I mean, we're not the brightest in the world. Flying an airplane is one thing, but knowing how things work is something completely different. That's engineer stuff.
Yeah.
We don't know about that.
So let's talk about, what was it like working with the nav? Did you enjoy that? Or
Yes.
Was that quite a difficult
Actually, you see,
process?
I'd not come across a navigator before, apart from Gaydon. But then you get your own navigator, and you have him for the whole tour. I had him for
Oh, right.
2.5, nearly 3 years.
So you just get used to each other.
Oh, we got on really well.
Yeah.
And the boss would say, I mean, if ever there's a problem between you and your nav, grab a case of beer and go and sit in a telephone box and sort it out. And that's what you did, basically. Well, you know, if you can find a telephone box. But yeah, Bernie and I, we were both bachelors at the time, and we drank. Everybody drank on the squadron. I mean, if the Russians were going to come over, Friday night, about 9 o'clock, that's a good time, because no one is walking at that time. You're offset to the left.
Yes.
In a bubble cockpit, so it's a bit of an oddball thing, really. You got used to it. You had a walkway, the nav's in a bank seat behind you, and what he would do is, if we're low level, he'd sit there for takeoff, and then he would unstrap and go and lie down in the nose and plug into the nose, and if he needed oxygen, he could plug in there as well. So the seat was a bank seat, ejection seat, and it had a canvas top to it, which was bloody sweaty. So you're sitting at low level, and it used to get quite hot in there. We had a thing called a Godfrey cold air unit, which was quite good up to a point, and then it would stop working, and then all of a sudden there'd be a bloody ice cube thrown at you out of this poker louver. You know, if you had your visor down, you're all right, but yeah, you end up with this happening. And I ended up with piles, hemorrhoids.
Really?
Yeah.
From the camera, basically.
Yeah. And I went to see the doc, and I mean, I thought this is just me, but apparently everybody gets it. So I went to see the doc. I was in his surgery, and I told him, I said, look, I've got piles. He said, oh, let me have a look. Right, okay. He disappeared. He came back in with a little stainless steel kidney tray, shaped tray, with a nice little sort of white napkin over the top. Put it down on the table, took the top off, and there was a scalpel and a syringe. And I said, what are you going to do? He said, they've just gone up an inch. He said, have some cream. So I thought, oh, God, you bastard. But he said, everybody gets them. Now, because it's hot and sweat, and you're strapped in, you can't move. You can't get up and walk around or anything, and you can't move.
Can the nav come up like through that gap, or is he strapped in the whole time?
No, the nav used to stand up next to you or sit on the rumble seat.
Right.
Yeah, it was great. In fact, quite often, the navigator would sit there, we'd navigate together and just enjoy it, you know. I mean, if you got fed up at 250, just ease it up a bit, up to 500 feet. We're still low level,
Yeah.
you know, and, you know, let's enjoy it. I mean, we had a trip one day from Larbrook to go across to Holland, but it was 1,000 feet across Holland, but we're in cloud. And I just said, nah, forget it. So I came back over Larbrook, spoke to the squadron, because we had our own discrete radio frequency anyway, so we called the squadron up. And I said, can you authorise me for 2 ATAF? And they said, yeah, no problems at all. So we had 3 hours to kill, no targets, nothing. Our flight numbers were mission numbers. We never had the commercial aircraft use Golf, whatever, and so on.
Yeah.
Or you're easy so and so on, if you're EasyJet and so on. But we had we used mission numbers all the time out there. Anyway, we buggered off around Germany, and something caught my eye, and I looked out, and there was a Hunter from 2 Squadron.
All right.
And they're recce as well. So we're on a common frequency in low level, and he said, what are you up to? I said, 2.5 hours to kill, mate. Fancy a pairs GCA into Buckerberg or something? Yeah. So we did. He said, what's your limiting speed for the undercarriage? I said, 190 knots or something, whatever, something like, or flap or whatever, something like that. Anyway, so I did it flapless and just with the gear down, so he could form 8 on me. And we took photographs of each other. I've got a lovely photograph that he took of me, which is great. I think I sent it to you, actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
You can see all the camera doors on the aircraft on it. and he took that, and it was great. And I sent him the copies of the photographs we took. We had I took a nice picture of a lightning from 56 Squadron.
I've seen that photo. Yeah, it's a great photo.
Yeah, we used to go out to Akrotiri every now and then. Yeah, it was a great tour. It really was, and it was a shame it all came to an end when the squadron disbanded and reformed with Jaguars down at Bruggen.